Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Experience Neurosculpting to break the bonds of normalized stress. Reclaim your life with active meditation that rewires your nervous system. My name is Stephen Dunnan. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network, and I'm particularly interested in today's program, partially because I don't know a lot about neurosculpting, and I originally trained in neurobiology. So I'm really excited to see and learn about the frontiers of what is possible with the latest in neuroscience and integrated with a deeper spiritual understanding, and how that can affect all sorts of conditions that are stress-related in our culture. And we're going to get to explore this with a real pioneer in this work. Her name is Lisa Wimberger. She's the founder and CEO of the Neurosculpting Institute and the co-founder of the Neuropraxis app. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Lisa.
It is my pleasure.
Great. Well, we're going to dive in. We're going to get a lot of great content and do some practice. And I also want to let everyone know we're going to have a chance to go much deeper with Lisa in a brand new program, a 7-week program. It's all about neurosculpting. And we're going to share more about that towards the end of the hour. So Lisa, let's begin our time today with a little bit, first of your backstory. I always find it so helpful to understand the deeper why behind a pioneer's work in a space. Like really, what propelled you on the path to develop neurosculpting?
Desperation is the mother of invention. That's what I have come to know in my body. So I grew up a meditator. You know, I've been meditating since I was 12. Don't ask me why. It was not part of my family culture. It was just something that was brought to me. And at 15, I suffered a traumatic incident. I was hit by lightning in the base of the spine and developed what is now known as an anoxic seizure disorder, which means basically my nervous system was short-circuiting. I was not epileptic. It was determined decades later that it wasn't anything epileptic. It was my stress system unable to process most of life and short-circuiting. And it caused me to flatline on multiple occasions. It caused great trauma to my daughter, who witnessed me flatline, AKA, near-death experience or die, whatever you want to call it. Traumatized her, traumatized the people who I love. And it was deemed a stress disorder. And none of that made any sense to me because I was a meditator and I didn't grow up with a lot of stress. At least I didn't think I did. And lo and behold, I looked at my meditation practice and said, well, this isn't working. What is this thing I have? And I went to study neuroscience for me, to fix me, because I was given zero treatment or, positive prognosis. It was like, no, this is just going to continue to get worse and you're eventually going to die in a seizure. And I didn't believe that. And so neuroscience gave me all of the answers I needed, taught me about how I could use neuroplasticity and top-down practices, which I'm going to share a little bit with you today, how I can use that to not just override stress, but to actually rewire my nervous system so that I didn't seize anymore. And neuroscience was giving me these answers. So really it came from the need to be a mother to my daughter. I was a single mother at the time where she witnessed me flatline, and I thought I was going to leave her an orphan. And that was just, even saying it now, I get like, ugh. It was just stomach turning to think of. And so I was on a mission and I figured it out and I used it to break my patterns. And the minute I broke through my seizures 17 years ago, never had another one since. The minute I broke through with this process, I knew I had to marry it and bring it to the world. And I have been doing that for almost 2 decades now, completely, utterly married to the sharing of some of the tools that you're going to get today.
Wow. What a backstory. I didn't know that in advance. That's really, quite an intense initiation that propelled you on this path. And so, I guess we're all the blessed beneficiaries now of what you've learned in the last 20 years. So let's start with this. A couple of things that seem to be interrelated. Neuroplasticity, I think, is the more technical term, and then neurosculpting is part of, I think, a more friendly way to say that. There's ways that we can shape our neural pathways it's more malleable than we once thought. And so maybe share a little bit about the emerging science around that, and then how we can turn that into practical applications.
Absolutely. So in all moments, our nervous systems are learning. Right now and every single minute of every day, your nervous system is learning. It is either assessing the environment, reaching for old efficient patterns that work and relearning those, reinforcing those, or it's assessing the environment, reaching for old patterns and they don't work. And now it has to learn adaptation patterns and new ones. So no matter what, we're always learning at the nervous system level. But most of us right now, you are relearning over and over again all of the most efficient patterns. And that doesn't mean the best ones. It means the most efficient ones. So if you have a coping mechanism that you've used frequently throughout your life, that is considered efficient. And your brain makes it that much easier for you to use that, even if it doesn't feel good, even if it's not good for you. Efficiency is the name of the game. And so neuroplasticity is the way in which the nervous system creates efficiencies so that we can repeat patterns, so that we don't have to bog ourselves down relearning every new moment. We can do things that feed our souls. But the problem is this becomes habituated and unconscious. And so then we want to make change, right? We take this great course, so we read this amazing book and we want to make great change. And we now know the nervous system can change patterns, perceptions, beliefs, even physical expressions, but we don't know how to get in and make the edits. So neuroplasticity says we can. Neurosculpting says how to do it.
That's fascinating. It's a great explanation and overview. And so it sounds like the efficiency part of the patterning is that, like, our brain only has so much energy for so many different tracks. And so it just goes back to the old grooves unless there's something really compelling to jump to a new pattern. So how do you convince, in a way, the sort of our neural structure to sort of not just slide back into the old pattern and open to a new possibility?
I'm so passionate about this question. I mean, obviously, it's what we're going to cover in the 7-week course in depth, but I'm so passionate about it because it's many, many ways in to resource the brain. And so it's not just one way. So there's bottom up ways, meaning there's things to give and use the body for that will repattern the nervous system through sight, smell, physical motion, food, sleep. And then there's the top-down ways, which are the thought-based ways to repattern the nervous system. And the magnificent thing is it repatterns from both directions. And so as a human, learning how to, program your own operating system, because essentially that's what you're going to do. That's what you're doing every day. You get to learn the language of coding, and that is the language of thoughts, biases, perceptions, and how to, shift those to shift the body, and then how to use the body to then send feedback shifting so that your perceptions naturally change. And so it's two directions. And the thing I love about neuroplasticity is it's not complicated. It is a mystery to many of us. But once you know the keys that I'm going to give you, you get to understand that you can, in 30-second practices throughout your day, come in from either the body up or the brain down. And you can actually shift powerfully in these tiny little moments repeated over time. I like to call it like microdosing, but not substance, right? Microdosing neuroplasticity practices makes incredible sustainable change to the nervous system. And there are rules and keys, and I learned them and they work, and I'm so excited to give them to you.
Is this a microdosing of practices, like in smaller bursts, is actually more effective than like a weekend immersion, like doing a meditation retreat for a weekend, say?
So yes, and context, right? So depends on what you're looking for. If you are looking for sustainable transformation, which I think most of us are, right? We want to know that the thing we're doing can be, can unfold over time and benefit us for our lifetime. That's sustainable change. If you're looking for sustainable transformation, then the laws of neuroplasticity, which is how your nervous system will grab that and make it real, those laws say short duration, repeated more frequently over time, is a far more sustainable bang for your buck than a very deep, concentrated immersion where you feel a catharsis, but then cannot integrate it, right? So integration is the name of the game. Most people who have profound immersive experiences go home and then have the hangover, which is, back to regular life. And how do I sustain it? And I've lost 80% of it. And now I'm just chasing the 10% I can hold on to. And that can actually be very depressing to some of us. I know I'm going to raise my hand here. Me personally, taking lots of immersive courses, studying with monks for years, being in bliss, in deep, deep cycle meditations, and then having to go to work on Monday and not having the integration space. Whereas with neuroplasticity practices, small doses repeated over time equal sustainable building blocks for foundational change that might be less perceptible up front, but far more integrated faster, which means change becomes easier and easier, which is, I think, what we really all want as humans.
Some really important distinctions there, and it makes a lot of sense that it's sort of, in a way, it's working with the way your nervous system does, which is to build these habits over time. So just the more continual bumps in a new direction are going to work more how we wired our brain in the first place.
Absolutely.
So you said before that your seizures were stress related. At least that was the diagnosis, and that it wasn't there was kind of an underpinning stress. So maybe talk a little bit about stress and how that manifests in the brain, and how some of these patterns can actually normalize underpinning stress that we may not be aware of.
So the nervous system is designed to sustain, to assess and adapt to change. Any change. So if everything is status quo, nervous system can relax. The minute the environment introduces a change, whether it's a thunderstorm or a loud sound behind you, or, I just lost my job, right? Any change, the nervous system has to adapt. So it has to move out of rest and into and then usually follows with some kind of action. And the action is either going to be an agitation, an action-oriented thing like, I better run, or I better do something, or it's going to result in the opposite action, which is inaction, immobility, which is, I'm frozen, deer in the headlights, right? Those are available stress responses. So all stress is normal. All stress is every day. It is the adaptation that we go through that is the important piece. So it's not about avoiding stress. I want to make that really clear. We are not bypassing stress. We're not avoiding it. We're not trying to pretend it's not there. We are trying to get resilient. And getting resilient means I'm recognizing I'm stressed. I'm recognizing what that looks like in the body and what direction I'm going in. And then I reach for tools to address it. When you do not have resources or tools to address the momentary stress that you experience, your body will store that moment as, well, I guess this is just how life is, because you've done nothing to intervene. So you then start to normalize feeling imbalanced. And then we go numb to those things. Now, I'll give you a perfect example right now. Some of you, if you're like me, may notice that you have small undercurrent stress in your jaw. At any moment, you tune into it. If I were to ask you to tune into it, or, my shoulders are hiked up just a little bit. You might not have known that before because you normalized it. But the moment you start getting tools that help you assess where you are in the stress spectrum and how that might have been invisible to you is now visible, you then take agency and you then get empowered and you can intervene and dial yourself back to a place of rest, which then means you break the pattern. And now you can start adapting new patterns so you don't get stuck in that place again. So this is how I've experienced it.
You had mentioned that about meditation wasn't necessarily fixing the seizures you were going through. So how can meditation, some types of meditation, actually keep us in the cycle versus free us from them?
I never would have believed meditation could have been harmful to me because it's my lifeline. But my nervous system has needs. And if you know the needs of the nervous system, then you'll choose the right tool at the right time. So the nervous system goes in two directions at any moment based on the situation. I either move out of rest and go towards agitation, which is heavy breathing, fast breathing, anxiety thoughts, agitation, anger, rage, fight, flee. Or it goes in the opposite direction. Shut down, depressed heart rate, hold the breath, deoxygenate the brain because I'm not breathing. So that means brain fog, dissociation, numb, right? Those are the states. Well, they're opposite. Most meditation, is a tool to calm down. I think most of us would agree. Most meditation is a tool for calm down. Well, calm down is only necessary when you're not calm. So the calm down meditation approach is only effective and safe for a nervous system when you're in agitation, rage, anger, anxiety. That's when you want to calm down. The calm down approach of most meditations, if you are a frozen person, is actually going to amplify the freeze. It's going to dissociate you further. It's going to convince you you're not your thoughts. You're not your body. You're more than this body. You can watch your thoughts float by. You are not connected to them. That's great when you're aroused. That is an inflammation of a freeze state when you're frozen. I'm raising my hand here because I was a frozen stress response. I was seizing and freezing. And you give relaxation meditation to someone who's a freezer, and it's like giving drugs to a drug addict. I know that flavor. I love that flavor. My body's choosing that flavor. And now I get a practice that makes it okay to stay there. And there's nothing wrong with the meditation itself. It's that I, as the human who did not know the needs of my nervous system, chose the wrong tool. And so I further dissociated for decades with my relaxation meditation practice. And once I started learning neuroscience, which is what I want to share with you in this course, is that my nervous system needed embodying practices. It needed arousal practices. It needed breath work to look very different. It needed thoughts to look different. It needed the physical body to do something differently. And it needed all of that to happen inside of a container that had information, education, and efficacy. And that was given to me by neuroscience. And so once I learned I was choosing the wrong tool, I created the right tool and I started using that on myself. That's when my seizures healed. That's when I became embodied. That's when my kidney stuff healed. I had chronic kidney issues as a child. I had all sorts of trauma in the body that healed because I finally chose the right tool. And how many of you right now have spent so much hope, invested time, invested money in gathering all of the great tools out there? But some of them, they can be great tools, but they can be the wrong ones. And now maybe you think you're broken because they don't work for you. You're not broken. You're using a hammer to screw in a screw when the screwdriver's right there, and you can use the hammer when you have a nail.
Really profound distinctions there. And really, yeah, I appreciate how you're saying that it's like it can be an exaggeration of the defense pattern against whatever the stressor is, and that doesn't help anything. So let's dive into the how. So neurosculpting. So how do you start to make these profound shifts as sort of multiple iterations in the course of a day to sort of retrain your nervous system to healthier patterns?
Yeah. Well, there's so many tools. There's all sorts of like physical tools that I'm going to give you. But what I want to share with you today is a small piece of the top down tool, knowing, of course, more comes later. But you can use your thoughts to dial yourself along the spectrum of stress, because the body responds to what focused attention is focusing on. And so what we do in neurosculpting meditation process is we take a nice little container of meditation, 15, 20 minutes that you'll learn in the course, and we use it to direct thoughts. It's very mind active. We're not clearing the mind. We don't want to clear the mind. We want to direct thoughts. So we're going to like move the spotlight of awareness of your thoughts in a very sequential manner. And it is the sequencing of this direction that gets the nervous system extremely receptive and amplifies its perception of learning so that it takes the information you are thinking about and embodies it much faster. It's a 5-step process. And as the facilitator of it, I guide it. And as the listener of the meditation, you just get to listen to a fun meditation. But ultimately, the 5 steps help quiet certain parts of the brain, in sequence, then amplify other parts of the brain, and then in a beautiful container, help your nervous system hear that story as though it's the only one being told with full attention. And then we get your body involved in mapping to the experience. So we're bringing the body in so we never dissociate. And that sequencing we'll go into in the course, but what I get to do with you in a little while today is give you just a taste of the first 2 pieces of it, which will be fun and playful for you, but actually will have great effect in your body.
Well, with that description and overview, why don't we just jump right into it?
Let's do it. So let me just set the stage for about 30 seconds. I'm only going to give you steps 1 and 2 of the full 5-step meditation process. This is going to be really fun. I'm just going to invite you to, in just a minute, listen to my voice. I'm going to invite you to focus on things that are comfortable, predictable, known, and get your midbrain nice and settled. And then we're going to crank up your focused attention with curiosity, novelty, wonder. It'll be silly, it'll be playful. But what I would like to invite you to do is right now, before we start, just check your body. What's happening in your jaw or your shoulders? Where's your breathing? Is it shallow? Is it tight? Is it deep? Is it slow? Just notice the state of your body, because you may perceive a state change at the end of a 7-minute experience. So why don't we begin? And I'm going to invite you to just gently close your eyes if you are in a comfortable place to do so. If not, you may have a soft gaze. And I would invite you to let your morning, your afternoon, your evening just go wherever it needs to go. We're not clearing the mind. We're letting thoughts be thoughts. But I'm inviting the spotlight of your awareness to turn a little inward, as though you could invite your eyes to drift back a little deeper into the center of your head. And you might do this by softening your eyelids. And you might bring your awareness a little downward, because the truth for you in this moment, the truth for you in every moment that you are in your body, is that your body is responding to gravity's invitation. And that is a very gentle downward orientation, helping you find the ground. And that may be through your sits bones or your feet, or if you're lying down, it might be through your back. You might allow your bones to get a little heavier and drift downwards, noticing that in all moments, the earth and you have a connection through the ground or the structure beneath you, whatever that may be. And that this is the most predictable force in all moments. And so perhaps you can let your shoulders drop a little bit in response to this. You may also notice that in this very moment, there is another amazingly supportive pattern supporting you right now. That's your breath. And without changing it, you might just notice that it's always in and out. And if you'd like, you can use the spotlight of your awareness to shift that inhale a little slower or deeper if you'd like, or the exhale. You may follow that out further, out from your face to the furthest edge of the room. And that your breath in this moment is breathing you. Gravity is supporting you to know where your body is. And you might just notice one or two other ways in which you feel comfort in this moment. That might be as simple as the softness of your shirt, or the room you're in, or knowing that you have access to food or water if you need it throughout the day. And as your body is resting in its truth of this particular moment, your breath can continue to bring your body deeper and deeper into rest, even when you awaken playful creativity. And so I would invite you to be very playful and perhaps imagine that you were a leaf on a tree. What branch do you live on? Are you getting sunlight? Are you catching rain? Are you fluttering in the breeze? Or perhaps it's more creative instead for you to imagine that raindrops had voices. What would a gentle rain shower sound like? Or maybe instead of that, it's funny to think of no human voice available to you, but instead an animal sound. What would your next conversation sound like if it were just with animal sounds? And so, with your brain resting in comfort and the truth of your body, and with your focused awareness, creative and playful, I would invite you to think that this is a place where your body listens and responds best. And you can even prove that to yourself by bringing the spotlight of your awareness in this moment to the back of your tongue, to just underneath your tongue, just to see if you can salivate simply with your own awareness. And when your body is primed just like this to listen to your mind, which is primed just like this, it shifts. And you might have just noticed that this is possible through all systems of the body, through all patterns in the mind. And so I wonder if you might just notice the state of your body now compared to when we started, just to see if there's a shift for you. You might even invite this shift to expand over the course of the day or to remind you of itself if you like it. And so you are welcome to bring your awareness very gently from the inner landscape to the outer, noticing perhaps the sounds of the room around you or the temperature of the air against your face. And whenever you feel ready, you can gently open your eyes and end your meditation.
Great. Well, thank you for that. I find your voice very soothing, and yeah, it's great to start to shift some of those deeper patterns. How do you recommend, sort of, is this what you do then in the repeating cycle with the kind of smaller bite-size shifts that you were talking about?
Yeah, well, what really happens is there's more story that goes with this meditation. So what I just gave you was the induction. It's the setup, right? And normally in a neurosculpting meditation, what I just did with you, we condense into 5 minutes. So it's really a brain, body, nervous system primer where everything gets on the same page. And now the whole nervous system is listening. So in the remaining pieces of the meditation that we're going to learn about in the course, you're going to be able to then tell a story of a new pattern or tell an old story that you edit to a nervous system that is listening and responding. And then through the remaining steps of the meditation, we anchor into the shifts with certain little techniques so that the meditation itself is like a 15, 20-minute experience as consider it you drawing the picture. And then throughout the days to exercise it, all you really need to do is the little quick gimmicks that you program into it over time. So for instance, in the course, you'll learn how we use hand gestures in the meditation. Well, the microdosing practices become the hand gestures or the little tricks that we give you in steps 3, 4, and 5, so that the repetition, microdosing becomes things you can do in like 10, 15-second intervals so that maybe you don't have time to meditate every day, but you have 15 seconds to reference a touch point from that original meditation. And that's what we teach you, is that this is painting the picture. And then the practice and the homework is just referencing gently the picture you already painted.
I'd love for you to share a little bit more about why that the restoring is really important. So how does the story actually shift the neural patterns?
Because your brain is always listening to internal stories. So for instance, even your posture, right? If you've got a story of, I'm not good enough, do you generally, or let's say a story of, I'm not loved, I'm not good enough, right? A lot of us have those stories. Do you stand tall and relaxed with a soft face and a smile? Or do you predominantly kind of shy away from the world or self-protect, right? The stories you hold right now are shaping your body quite literally. The stories you hold, the beliefs you hold are quite literally changing the inflammation markers in your blood. The stories you hold quite literally are causing either your brain to be cognitively impaired or cognitively sharp. The stories are causing you to have the relationships you have. So everything that you experience in life is the byproduct of a story. When I say story, it doesn't mean it's fake. It's quite real. When I say story, you can replace it with the word pattern. So everything that comes out of your body, your thoughts, is a pattern. And so when you prime the brain like we just did, it is now ready and ripe to go look at those patterns in the form of stories and make perceptual shifts. So in the 7-week course, we're going to teach you how to literally shift the old belief, whether it's self-sabotage, I'm not good enough, I'm not loved, whether it's I have chronic pain or fibromyalgia or whatever. There are always pattern generating aspects of these things. And when we can get in with a repatterning meditation or system and soften some of the use of those patterns, it's amazing at what can shift in the body. Now, does that mean it's a cure for everything? No. But why wouldn't you take more agency over your nervous system, knowing full well it will help, than not take agency at all? That's what neuroplasticity practices do for you. And very specifically, neurosculpting gives you that as a very laser targeted, efficient way to do it.
And then the prompts you were saying, the sort of the reminders that you sort of work with. So what's the purpose of them? Is it sort of like, it's just to kind of like reactivate the story so the new neural circuit gets reanimated?
Absolutely. So when you go through a full meditation and you've, told yourself a new story about how you're loved, or you edited out some of the intensity of the old story, right? You've dialed it from volume 10 to volume 7. We anchor you into that shift. Any shift is a good shift for the nervous system, even if it's like, well, I want to feel 100% better, but that's not realistic, right? But if I feel 1% better, that's better than not feeling 1% better. So we always anchor you into the shift with a word, a phrase, a hand gesture, a nuance, a little like gimmick, so that throughout the days you can access the subconscious perception of that shift with that little gimmick. Now, do you feel relief in the moment? Maybe not. But what your subconscious nervous system is doing is going back to the shift you made, revisiting it, reinforcing it. And over time, it's easier and easier and easier to get back there. And it's more and more believable to the body because the nervous system is repeating it. And we go back to the beginning now, because I remember we said the stories you use the most are deemed the most efficient. So we give you a fast track to repetition of a new story you took agency to write, so that over time, that new story becomes the efficient go-to pattern. And there will be a time, if you do use neurosculpting regularly, there will be a time where the old pattern does not come up anymore, and it surprises you because it's not there. It's because you did the work, daily practice, and you did it incrementally, and that's how it happens.
Truly fascinating work, and makes so much sense from a neuroscience perspective. So let's talk a little bit about some of the areas of application. So you've obviously applied this widely, and it's sort of the stories are upstream from a lot of the downstream issues that we might face, but it might be good just to have a few different examples of the kinds of patterns people have worked with and transformed in this way.
Yeah, so I'll give a physical example, and then I'll give a mental example. So I have a lot of entrepreneurs who are stuck in self-sabotage because they don't believe either they deserve or they're good enough, or they have a weird relationship with money, like the things that kind of stop us when there's no real physical reason to be stopped. I have a lot of those people, and I have entrepreneurs come in and they cannot make their business grow. And it's really their story in the way, their story of, I'm not good enough. And so when we repattern the I'm not good enough, what happens is they no longer have that lens because it's no longer a strong pattern. They start to recognize different opportunities, take different opportunities, and they change their go forward plan. And so you can do that with emotional patterns or mental patterns. But the physical ones are fascinating. So I have case studies with quadriplegics, and these are really interesting because you can see them on my YouTube channel. But we've got quadriplegics who come in paralyzed through real effect, right? They, broke partial sever of their cervical spine, right? And this is one of my case studies. Paralyzed for 13 years with her hands like this, her arms mobile, her legs immobile. And obviously she had a spinal sever, so there's real paralysis there. But she was also told she'll never move her hands again. That's a story. might be true. For her, it was true. I will never use my hands again. And so in 6 neurosculpting sessions, which were all filmed, in the 7th session, she moved index and thumb based on the neurosculpting meditation story we were working on. And I got on film the moment she moved her fingers. Yes, she moves her fingers now when she does neurosculpting meditation and stops patterning and relying on the "you'll never use your hand" story that all of the neurosurgeons gave her. And she starts editing that story to maybe I can use my hands. Lo and behold, she can move pinky, index, and thumb. That is miraculous. I did not intend for that to happen. I will not say that that's something that will happen for everybody. But what I will say is the body keeps the score. If you're a fan of Bessel van der Kolk, you know the body keeps the score. The body expresses the stories that give it shape. And some of those stories are editable. And that's what I want to help you do. Edit the stories that you can take agency over so that your life becomes something graceful and aligned that you can actually attain.
Great example. And love maybe just to give us a sense for some of the other areas that this has proved to be effective in sometimes surprising ways.
Surprising ways. So it can change relationships because we all show up in relationship with story. I work with first responders as well. So it is incredible for the way we habituate to stress, post-traumatic stress. It has high efficacy with anxiety and sleep. We have a study out now in the Journal of Yoga Rehabilitation and Physical Therapy, which has tracked it to decreasing anxiety, improving sleep, improving resting heart rate, and HRV pre to post meditation. So any number of things. I mean, ultimately, every single thing in your life is the function of a nervous system pattern in some way. So that is great news because it means you actually can tinker with those patterns, maybe more than you thought you could. And to me, that's so hopeful.
Well, it's amazing. This whole system of neurosculpting is just so grounded in the latest science, and really it was such a range of applications, and it makes just a lot of sense of like a very methodical way to kind of work through the shifting of the patterns in your nervous system, and to really honor the brain for its ability to sort of create order out of the complexity of all the stimulus of our lives, and that we have to kind of work with it to sort of train it into the most optimal patterns rather than just the ones that worked for a while. Really great stuff. So let's talk more explicitly about your upcoming program, which is really the best way that you can dive deep into this. So it's called Neurosculpting. It's rewire patterns of self-sabotage and stress into joy and resilience for self-actualization. It applies to a wide variety of areas. You can find the whole program laid out in detail at neurosculptingbasics.com, neurosculptingbasics.com. It's a 7-week program. There are no prerequisites for this. And Lisa's really just going to lay the foundations for you to make these shifts into reality. It doesn't have to take a big chunk of time out of your life. It can be something you can build over time with, and that you can address these areas where you've looped in patterns that you're aware are just not optimal for your life. So, Lisa, I'd love for you to share on a high level, like what are they going to emerge from the program? How are the kind of tools and skills? And then I'll read out the module titles. You can give us a preview of what's coming in each.
Yeah. You're going to leave with the keys to the manual for your entire nervous system. I know that this sounds like a tall order, but I'm really going to give that to you. These are the tools that changed my life. These are the tools that helped me override autonomic nervous system patterns. And so I'm going to give that all to you. You're going to come out of this with daily practices, meditation practices, a way to craft meditations for yourself so that you can be self-sufficient. You're going to come out with stress regulation tools, physical tools. You're going to come out with vagal toning practices. You will come out with the keys to your nervous system's superpowers. And you will come out with a very realistic and hopeful plan that says it doesn't need to all be done tomorrow. And so you're going to be able to do it in a way that fits your busy life and still see powerful results.
Great. Module 1, unlock your potential, how understanding your nervous system's relationship to your higher self empowers you to make lasting positive changes.
Yeah, we're really going to link nervous system to spirit here. I mean, they've been siloed, right? You know, spirit works over here, Western medicine or neuroscience or sciences is over here. They're two sides of one spectrum as far as the nervous system is concerned. Nervous system is the interface between your physical world and the spirit you in your body, right? It needs a nervous system to be the interface. So we're really going to start to define how the way your nervous system works is either allowing you to be a fully embodied spirit doing the work here on the planet, or contracting you such that you're maybe feeling like there's a disconnect between why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? So the first and foremost is we're marrying spirit and body because they exist in the same place while you're alive.
Module 2, mastering your responses, how understanding fight, flee, and freeze can help you recognize and redirect dysregulating patterns for greater well-being.
Absolutely. You are going to get a very good understanding of all of the physical and mental indicators of where you are so that you know in any moment, am I moving towards fight, flee? What tools are good for that and what can I reach for to bring me back to center? Or am I moving towards freeze? What are the indicators? What is the brain doing? What's the body doing? That shows me long before I'm stuck, oh, I'm going in that direction. And then what specific tools can bring me back? We're going to cover, vagal toning and the vagus nerve. We're going to cover all sorts of physical bottom-up tools to get you back to center. But you first have to understand and identify when you move away from center, what does that feel like? And so that module is going to really anchor you into a very in-depth understanding of things that might have been very invisible or mysterious to you up to this point.
Module 3, neuroplasticity and a top-down approach to regulation. Take control of your mind and emotions while building resilience and agency.
This is where you get to understand how neuroplasticity works. We'll talk a little bit about Hebb's law of neuroplasticity. We'll talk a little bit about how neural networks talk to each other and how your thoughts actually spark activity in neural networks. And then we'll talk about how all of that coordinates itself into placing you into an automated pattern through your body. And so that you really get to see the link between, oh, I am learning and relearning in all moments. And so giving you the entry point into neuroplasticity understanding so that you can start then intervening with intention.
Module 4, understanding the midbrain frontal brain relationship to improve resilience and achieve self-actualization.
Yeah, there is a beautiful choreography that neuroscience has illuminated about certain dynamics between certain lobes of the brain. And they're not accidental. And we don't wait for luck for those dynamics to come into harmony. We actually have a way to induce that harmony very quickly. Once the brain, the midbrain, and the prefrontal cortex are in that harmonious space, meaning they use blood oxygen and glucose in a very particular way. Once the brain is there, the nervous system is extremely pliable and receptive. And so when you want to make a shift, you want it to be in a nervous system that's very receptive instead of in resistance. You can actually move the brain and body into that with just this simple equation. I'm going to give you that equation in that particular module.
Truly fascinating. Module 5, neurons that fire together, wire together, how to hack habituation and self-sabotage for positive life changes.
Yeah, this is where we're going to really dive into how do you use Hebb's law of neuroplasticity in day-to-day life? How do you recognize in any moment, I'm actually habituating to this right now. Ooh, and I don't even want to. Can I prevent it in the moment? Can I take so much agency over my nervous system that I no longer hook into the same triggers and scenarios that have spun me out before, such that you can actually be in the world differently? That's what Hebb's law in real life looks like. And that's what's covered in that section.
Module 6, create your desired reality by harnessing the power of your nervous system to create your ideal life, exploring how manifestation, mantras, and energy work within your brain.
Yes, we're going to dispel the myths of manifestation, and we're going to anchor into the truth of manifestation in that. And believe me, well, you probably know, right? Because you're all tuning in right now. You probably are fans of I believe I can make a life that I want, right? I can manifest things. There's such power in manifestation. And like any tool, if it's used without understanding how to use it, then you might be wishing a whole lot and getting a whole little. You might be putting the yacht on your vision board and end up in a canoe with a hole in it and wonder, why is this happening? I am going to dispel the neurobiological myths around how to manifest, because how to actually manifest very effectively relies upon your understanding of brain patterning and top-down influence over the nervous system. So really the bonus is that all of your nervous system regulation leads you to powerful clarity with manifestation.
And finally, Module 7, programming your nervous system for personal transformation, working with your higher self to become the architect of your life.
Yeah, so this is where you get to now apply neuroplasticity to goal setting. There is a way to set goals and assess your life that is aligned and effortless. And there is a way to set goals and plan your life, which is contracting and or even unattainable. And when you understand how the nervous system works and where it positions you and how to reposition it, then you actually set and achieve goals differently as well. And you may find that you understand your purpose better too, because you don't have the noise of the stories contracting you or hijacking your thought patterns.
What a beautifully architected course, and really lays such strong foundations for making lasting change. So great stuff. And I'll just share a few other things that we haven't covered. There's, again, the whole program is laid out in more detail at neurosculptingbasics.com, neurosculptingbasics.com. So you get not only the 7 90-minute sessions with Lisa, which is going to include time to ask your questions directly as it relates to your life. There'll be interactive exercises, there'll be meditations and practices you can do at home. You'll get recordings, both video and audio of every session, as well as word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. And that's particularly helpful to go back and really make sure that you're doing things in the right way. There's weekly exercises at home. There's a Facebook community to enhance and deepen your journey with other people. And on the page, you'll see a number of extra bonuses that really enhance your journey. There's a body amplifier neurosculpting meditation. That's a guided audio meditation by Lisa. There's also a regulating for healthy immunity and emotional resilience. This is a full video teaching from Lisa in addition to the core teachings. Lisa, you want to share a little bit about that specific teaching?
Yeah, you know, the body actually creates inflammation based on stress. Stress can come from your mind's thoughts or your body's experience. And so when you tweak your perception of stress at that base level, you actually change the way inflammation works in the body. And that then changes your immunity. So in that particular one, we're really looking at how can I optimize my body's immunity by downregulating inflammation through a top-down process. And this kind of thing has been well documented. You know, there's lots of studies out there about how inflammation reduces and even how DNA changes or how telomeres grow at the ends of the DNA based on stress regulation and meditation. So we're really going to start marrying the mental world and the physical world.
That's just one bonus in addition to the core teaching. And there's another special bonus I want to draw your folks' attention to. It's this bonus that you get when you sign up by midnight tonight. This is called Visual Perception and Your Brain. This is another video teaching by Lisa. And Lisa, you want to share about that special bonus folks get when they sign up right away?
This is actually my favorite. You can't believe everything you see. We tend to use the phrase, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, in this bonus, I'm going to show you how that is completely wrong and totally inaccurate. You actually don't see what's really happening. So it's a great example of how we rely on the external world to create our belief systems when in fact it works the other way around. And the visual system is one of the coolest ways to prove that we don't actually see what's really going on around us. And then we can apply that to our sense of the world and realize we have so much permission to choose how we want to see the world, ourselves and each other. And it's such a fascinating bonus. Actually, yeah, it's one of my favorite topics of all time.
Well, that sounds really intriguing and a great reason to sign up right away. So really remove the perceptual filters and understand how we're creating our experience of reality by what we're seeing through, not just what we're seeing. So that's beautiful. We've kept it really accessible for the investment in this program. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you save 10% when you pay in full at one payment of $349. The course begins on June 22nd, runs Thursdays at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, transcripts, and the community as well. And I particularly encourage you to read through some of the testimonials from some of the most eminent people out there, people like David Perlmutter, John Assaraf, Dave Asprey, father of biohacking, really some of the people who are very focused on practical benefits for your brain, for your nervous system, for your life, and really endorsing the power of Lisa's work and its grounding in a more ageless wisdom applied in the neuroscience of today. So you are in really good hands, and you're going to get some great practices to really resculpt your brain in the right direction that you want to manifest the life that really aligns with your deepest truth. So again, you can find all the details at neurosculptingbasics.com, neurosculptingbasics.com, and you can get that special bonus on the visual perception and your brain when you sign up by midnight tonight, Pacific time. So Lisa, we just have 1 or 2 minutes left. Anything that we haven't shared yet that you want to share with folks who are considering going deeper on this journey of neurosculpting with you?
I just really want to remind you that you live in a body that you never got a manual for. And then you hope for a life that needs you to direct that body, yet you don't have a manual for it. So it's great to have dreams and visions and purpose, but without aligning your body in that direction, it's so much harder. And we don't have to make it harder for ourselves. You don't have to make it harder for yourself. You can take this course. And these tools are for life. They don't expire, and they're not a one and done. These are tools for life. You may never need another course again. I mean, if you're like me, you're going to want to take another course again because I love learning, but you may never need one. The moment you understand how to program your nervous system, you have the keys to the kingdom. Take them.
Well, thank you for offering the keys to the kingdom, and really just such a brilliant exposition today, and really inspiring example from your own life and the lives of others. So again, all you who are out there, thank you so much for joining today. You're warmly welcome to go further in the Neurosculpting program with Lisa. It's called Neurosculpting, Rewire Patterns of Self-Sabotage and Stress into Joy and Resilience for Self-Actualization. You can find all the details and get registered at neurosculptingbasics.com, and you're going to get that the bonus that's focused on visual perception in your brain when you sign up by midnight tonight. So thank you, Lisa. What a great hour. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much.